This is the DG&S campaign recap series, Adventures in Darkadia Chapter 3, A Surprise Lilly. The victory beneath Kingsdawn was met with quiet reward. Viola received the serpents back into the shadows with a sharp nod, and the gold was counted out quickly to those who were not sworn members, Onali, Gadwin, Livia and Kerrick. Though the offer to join stood, none chose to walk Nyx, Tamara and Iliac's path into the full embrace of the guild. Instead, they agreed to a looser arrangement, an understanding between friends who had bled together. But Vela's eyes lingered longest on Kerrick. She had been watching since their first meeting, had heard of his time at the college, and she recognized a talent beyond stagecraft. She spoke to him quietly after the gold was handed out. "The college has its surface face," she said, "and then it has the circle I deal with, wolves among sheep. If you want more than applause, I can see that the right people whisper to you." Kerrick agreed. She only smiled and told him to wait. When the group parted ways for a time, Onali left Kingsdawn behind and returned to the Durandal forest. When she first walked through, she felt a power in the heart of the forest. She wandered deeper than before, searching for something she could not name. But she knew it would have roots and magic older than the city's stone. Weeks passed before she found it. A clearing where the air shimmered faintly, and at its heart, a towering tree spirit who named herself Ithala. Onali sat cross-legged before her, the forest quiet save for the rustle of leaves. "Ithala," Onali asked, "I've seen strange blights and disturbances in my travels. What's happening to the forest?" The spirit's gaze drifted upward into the canopy before returning to her. "These afflictions are old, child. The elemental planes once shaped this world as easily as the Feywild and Shadowfell touched it. Crossing between them was as simple as stepping across a brook, but the bond to the Feywild fades. Something is cutting it away." Her voice grew quieter. "I could have returned once. I chose not to, for I would not abandon my forest. Now the way is closed and I feel myself fading with it, as will you in time." If answers were to be found, Ithala told her, they would be in the north, in the lands humans called Novak and Andalin. There she might find Fae who knew the cause of the severing. Before Onali left, a sprig at her feet pushed through the soil, growing into a staff topped with a violet orb. "This is yours," Ithala said. "Through it, we may still speak." Weeks later, after one of his acting classes, Kerrick noticed a man watching him, Caius Nightstring, a tutor famed for his skill with the lute. Caius crossed the hall with measured steps. "Your dedication hasn't gone unnoticed," he said. "There's more to being a bard than melody. Meet me tonight, midnight, at the Moonlit Garden, alone." The Moonlit Garden lay hidden behind the main college halls, a sanctuary of ancient trees and moonlight-silvered flowers. Kerrick arrived at the stroke of midnight, finding Caius waiting beside a marble bench. "This place," Caius said, "is where bards step from song into shadow. The College of Whispers trains wolves to move among sheep, to gather secrets, weave influence, and change the fate of kingdoms." Kerrick met his gaze. "An ex-pirate with a silver tongue? I think I'll fit in." Caius nodded. Kerrick would continue his daylight classes, but at night he would learn the arts of magic and espionage. Once his training was completed, he would be tasked to return with a worthy secret that the Whispers did not know. Once completed, he would become a Whisperer. Livia spent her days at the arena, training alongside Hope. The bond that began in sparring deepened, and one evening Hope told her story. A Morathian noble's daughter turned gladiator, fighting not for glory but to survive after pirates destroyed her family's fortunes. Her nickname, No Hope, had been given in mockery. She wore it now as a warning. Over the months, the two became more than partners in the sand. Nyx, disguised as Eben Fibing, a young rock gnome, began to apprentice under Gareth Lowe, master locksmith, learning the intricacies of locks, both simple and arcane. By day, he honed his craft. By night, the serpent's poisoner taught him the subtler art of venom. Nyx's deception skills improved more and more. Tamara tried to keep the 12 rescued orphans under her care, insisting they call her mother. One by one, they slipped away to the streets. None stayed. Iliac did what Iliac always did: drink, listen, and embellish his stories until they gleamed. Gadwin joined 4 guilds: the Alchemists, Smithing, Masons, and the Arcane Eye. When he wasn't working on commissions, he refined his artificer craft, bolstered by the steady coin from his now famous eel sauce. On the 18th of mid-year, whispers began to spread. The truce between Brenadane and the Galvanian Empire had broken. By the end of the month, the truth was unavoidable. The King's Council met in urgency. Troops marched out of Kingsdawn to bolster Brenadane's defences along the Lucienne and Ainilda rivers. Town criers took to every square. Able-bodied citizens, enlist now. The King calls for you. Even as war shadows loomed, the group's paths remained their own, until the summer solstice, when they would be together once more. The summer solstice in Kingsdawn brought with it the festival of Thilranluma, a week of music, dancing, and celebration rooted in the ancient traditions of Shailen Athel. Over the centuries, humans and gnomes had embraced the elven holiday, filling the streets with joy. Lanterns and garlands hung from every post, vendors called from colourful stalls, and the smell of roasted meats and sweet pastries drifted through the air. The festival was both merriment and devotion, a time to honour Astraea, the summer goddess, patron of warmth, vitality, love and abundance. To the High Elves, she was also known as Omyen Akadi, the copper dragon goddess. The group had agreed to reunite on this day, though Kerrick remained at the College of Whispers to finish his training. At the Silent Hall's tavern, Livia, Gadwin, Nyx, Aliak and Tamara waited for Onali. When she arrived, it was clear the forest had changed her. She wore a flowing blue dress instead of her leathers, still barefoot, but now carrying a polished staff crowned with a violet crystal. Her eyes, once purple, shone green in the light. The others welcomed her warmly, and after catching up, they decided to enter the team events at the arena. Before their match, Livia and Hope took to the sand for their first bout as a team. Livia had leaned fully into the spectacle, appearing in a bright, revealing outfit, streaked with war paint and a swaying loincloth. The crowd had begun to call her the sharp-eared spear. She and Hope fought hard, winning the match, though Hope was left exhausted and bloody. Wanting to give the crowd a flourish, Livia lit one of Gadwin's fireworks without understanding how it worked. The explosion went off far too close, knocking both her and Hope to the ground in a burst of smoke and sparks. The audience roared with laughter as Onali hurried forward to heal them, and Livia offered a sheepish apology to her dazed partner. When the group's turn came, they faced a conjured rock golem. Its stone fists struck like hammers, forcing the party to work together to bring it down. The fight was grueling, but their combined skill eventually shattered the construct, drawing cheers from the stands as Tamara yelled, "I am the mother!" Riding the high of victory, they decided to explore the other festival competitions, stopping first at the bathhouse to wash away the grit and dust of battle. Clean and refreshed, Nyx, Onali and Livia entered the archery competition. As they prepared, a voice in smooth Elvish greeted them from behind. They turned to see a tall, handsome high elf who introduced himself as Galdulwyn, expressing delight at seeing wood elf cousins in the city. The line of competitors formed: Onali, Livia, Nyx, Galdulwyn, and a nobleman named Lord Edwit, whose fine longbow gave off a faint magical hum. Despite the years of archery experience among the elves, it was Nyx who took first place. Gadwin's detect magic revealed Edwit's enchanted bow, and Iliac, with a few well-placed words, convinced the judges to disqualify the noble before he could use it. In the confusion, Iliac slipped the bow away, later presenting it to Nyx with a grin. The elves bid Galdulwyn farewell and moved on. Elsewhere, Tamara was still preoccupied with tracking down the orphans she had tried to care for. In a quiet alley, she cornered one, a thin, wary girl of about 12. "Lilly," Tamara said softly, "don't run away from your mother." She took the child's hand and led her back toward the noise and colour of the festival. The group met again near the food stalls, where Livia gnawed contentedly on a turkey leg. Nearby, a caravan of Yadlosk, the nomadic halflings of the Vorosh Plains, had gathered, their barrel-topped wagons painted in vivid colours. The air was alive with music, laughter, and the scent of spiced wine. Among the wagons was a small covered one painted deep red, its sign promising fortunes told. All but Livia were drawn in by curiosity. The group stepped inside, greeted first by a young halfling woman who ushered them into a darker tent heavy with incense. An elderly halfling named Yetta sat at a small table in the lamplight. The first card is your past, the second your present, the third your future, she said. Tamara drew the comet, the fool, and the fates. Iliac revealed the talons, the rogue, and the throne. Nyx's cards were the donjon, the sun, and the gem. Onali turned over the moon, the balance, and the void. Yetta's expression hardened when she looked at Gadwin, and she said nothing, refusing to deal him any cards. They left the wagon with the incense still clinging to their clothes, each pondering the meaning of their draws. Night had fallen, and the streets were bathed in lantern light as the crowd gathered for the fireworks above the castle. Sparks lit the sky in cascading colours, reflecting in the faces of the reunited companions. In a few weeks, when Kerrick's training was complete, they would leave Kingsdawn together for Port Rodania. For now, with the solstice fire in the air and the festival alive around them, they were no longer just a collection of allies thrown together by circumstance. They were a group, one that would face whatever came next, together. A few weeks after the summer solstice, Kerrick completed his training at the College of Whispers. He now carried with him the rudiments of illusion and subterfuge magic. The spells were still raw and would take practice to perfect, but his tutors spoke in hushed tones of how quickly he had learned, an unnatural speed. What should have taken years had taken mere months. Gadwin arranged the final guild paperwork for travel. Livia said her goodbyes to Hope at the arena, the farewell warm, but without the promise of permanence. Nyx, Tamara, and Iliac informed the Obsidian Serpents they would be leaving the city. Their destination was set, north to the kingdom of Yarlford and the city of Port Rodania. Kerrick wished to follow the lead he had found in the Halls of Knowledge library, a record that the Windkeeper had sailed from Avonport to Port Rodania. Gadwin hoped to discover more about the mercenaries who had attacked his clan. For Onali, the road north was a step closer to Novak and Andalon, and perhaps to more answers about the Feywild's fading connection to the mortal world. Onali bristled at the sight of Tamara preparing to bring Lilly, her dark hair now cut shorter, on the trip. The thought of dragging a child across kingdoms unsettled her, and she even asked Tuan to watch her, still frightened to leave her house after the rats incident. But Tamara insisted. "She's with her mother," she said. "You are not her real mother," Onali replied sharply, though it did nothing to change Tamara's mind. They left Kingsdawn in a hired stagecoach bound for Avonport, following the King's High Road. The ancient Elvani white stone road still gleamed where the centre had been left untouched, infused with the same stone as the walls of Kingsdawn, Luthmere, the fused white stone of the Elvani Empire. Human patchwork filled the gaps where time and theft had claimed the edges. To the left, the land fell away toward the Sreen River, its broad waters catching the light. Far beyond, the dark line of the Durandal forest was visible for many days. To the right, the land rose in places into hills and scattered woods, eventually climbing toward the mountains. They reached Noxton by midday. The rolling hills gave way to a tidy village with thatched roofs and cobblestone lanes. Fields of wheat and vegetable gardens stretched behind timber-framed homes, their gardens bursting with roses and sunflowers. At the village square, children played near a weathered fountain, while elders talked on benches. The smell of fresh bread drifted from the bakery, mingling with the ringing of the blacksmith's hammer. They paused long enough to stretch their legs before moving on. By evening, they arrived in Rosashire, a walled town warmed by the glow of the setting sun. The gate bore the emblem of a rose entwined with wheat, and inside the cobbled streets were alive with merchants, artisans, and farmers. Flowers spilled from window boxes, and the market plaza rang with the sound of bargaining and laughter. The group took rooms at the Laughing Lute for the night. The next morning, the road carried them past the imposing Crown Hold, a mile north of Roseshire. The fortress trained Oath of the Crown Paladins, its grey stone walls crowned with banners snapping in the wind. Beyond its gates lay training yards, stables, and a solemn chapel. After the fortress of Crownhold, the North Point forest began to press right against the roadside, the highlands looming beyond. From there, they continued to King's Bridge by late evening, a toll bridge with a small rest stop and the King's Bridge Inn, before pressing on the next morning. The final day brought them at last to Avonport. Breaking past a rocky outcrop, the city came into view, a great port descending steeply to the sea, smaller than Kingsdawn, but rich with the same white Elvani stone architecture. Posters still clung to walls, celebrating Lady Seaborn's recent victory in the Thilran Luma jousting tournament, the first for her family in many years. The stagecoach left them at the harbour at sunset. Lilly hesitated at the vast expanse of water until Onali and Kerrick reassured her. From the docks, they could see the famed Anarion rising from a small coastal land extension, two towering high elf statues, one male and one female, holding a great sword with a small dragon perched beside them, a broken stone arch behind. Carved entirely from Luthmare, it had stood for over 3 millennia, a monument to the alliance between elves and dragons. They found a cheap inn near the docks, and Kerrick went in search of a ship. Only one captain agreed to sail directly to Port Rodania, Captain Willie of the Wild Willie. Kerrick secured a lower fare by offering the party's labour as deckhands. At the morning high tide they set out, the sea breeze sharp and briny. Kerrick put the group to work learning ropes and rigging. Tamara succumbed to seasickness within hours, spending most of the 2-day voyage heaving over the rails or lying below deck. Late on the 3rd day, the Wild Willie rounded the coast into the harbour of Port Rodania. The city's sprawl climbed the cliffs above the docks, the air alive with the calls of gulls and the clatter of rigging. Ahead lay a new city, and the next chapter of their journey.